of a sudden these spot rezonings are hatched, and they're well along before we even hear about them. And I want to especially express concern about that, because our city, of course, is very strapped for funds, especially post-Olympics. And I don't think people in this room are maybe thoroughly enough aware of how that slants everything in favor of spot rezoning, and especially what we see at Shannon Mews, but I'm not going to fall in the trap of being very specific. There are others, similar examples to this. I'd like to have you people tell us something about how this affects the finances of Vancouver. It'll certainly increase the tax base, but I understand there's also these things known as development cost levies and CACs. And we've been told two different things about that. Some people seem to suggest that they're an extremely big cash cow that would bring in tens of millions of dollars to the city, and maybe would help us in the room here understand why, despite getting involved and doing all the things we're supposed to do, nothing happens. We get these small little changes of FSR down from 2.05 or something on Shannon Mews to 1.95. I mean, it's virtually nothing. So I'd like you to explain what the finance contribution is as a result of this project to the city. So one more thing I want to say. It seems to me if the finance contribution is huge, that might explain why these spot density increases are not eco-density at all. When there's no transit connected with them, how could anybody dare to call this eco-density?
I'll give a really quick answer. I think what's important is the transparency of where the dollars are. And I think that when the process is being worked through, it's not very clear that there's a certain amount of money set aside to preserve a heritage house, for instance, or a certain amount of money that will go into affordable housing. And I think that when these things come through the city, we really need to be way clearer up front what the dollar implications are. And that way the public, you have a better idea and can make clearer decisions, because you know you've got the facts in front of you. It's something that is a little better in our council reports lately, but it's still not good up front at the beginning of the process. It's something I'd like to see.
Okay, Councillor Worth, would you like to respond to that? Because it's now 20 after, and I believe you and Councillor Anton do have to leave.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have to leave in 10 minutes. I think that we do need more transparency about community amenity contributions and development cost levies, and that I also think that we need more transparency in the kind of profits the developers expect to get out of the developments. That is part of what we have had a commitment in the city to 20% affordable housing. Again and again and again, we're not reaching that, and we're blaming that on the fact that there's no federal national housing strategy. It hasn't been one since '93. And the provincial government stopped providing housing except in terms of some of the SROs they're developing on city sites. So obviously we need to have the developers think about how they can work with us to provide the real affordabilities. Unfortunately, STIR hasn't provided the affordability. STIR's provided the rental, but not the affordabilities. So these are the kinds of things we have to do, and I agree that City Council needs to step up to the bat and say to the planners, when you're doing a development process, we expect you to listen to the community, we expect you to have meetings, not just open houses, but actual meetings where people are talking to each other and find out really what is needed in terms of amenities, really what's needed in terms of affordable housing, and really what the community wants before setting off and going on a development process like happened at Marine Landing that I voted against just last week.